All right, everybody, welcome back to the Say Yes Anyway podcast, these conversations from the heart that I know you have something in your heart that you need to say yes to. Maybe you're listening, maybe you're not. It may be a loud voice, it may be a gentle whisper, but we all have them. And today I have somebody that I'm so excited to introduce you to, Dr. Cheryl Wood. She empowers and equips women with the tools to courageously share their unique voice. She's an international motivational speaker, a best-selling author, executive speaker, development coach. And it was so fun. We actually met over in Texas at our friend Amber Lee's. It was a summit. And when we were in line to go and talk to Trent Shelton, which we love him, somehow we got to talking. Of course, you're in line, not a weirdo. And I found out that she was coming to Barcelona and she was hosting a speaker summit. And that's where I live. So anyway, here we are connected. I'm so excited that you're here. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I am still so tickled pink that we made that connection. When I heard them make the announcement that there was someone there at the event in Texas from Barcelona, I'm like, okay, I know this is divine. There is no way.
100%.
I flew here. I flew to Texas from DC. You flew in. And then to know that you were from Barcelona and that's where my event was going to be was like, okay, I have got to meet her. So that was very, very divinely orchestrated. So I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. I would love to know, first off, what do you love about yourself in your life right now?
Mm. Well, I'm a woman of a certain age now. I call myself seasoned.
Love
I'm a
it.
seasoned
Love it.
woman. And what I love about my life, I love that I am doing the very thing that I know I'm born to do. Like
Mm,
there's no question in my mind that I'm doing what I'm born to do. I'm not trying to figure it out. Some
mm,
people at this stage and season in life, they're still trying to figure out who they are, what they want, how they can create legacy. And I already know that, and I'm walking fully in it.
mm.
And really, my next steps are just continuing to do it for as long as I have life and breath in my body. So that I'm really proud of, and I'm really proud that I've been able to bring my family along the journey with me for the past 14 and a half years. My three kids who have been able to really kind of enjoy the fruits of my labor of me finding out what my purpose and my passion is and getting to experience that part of me because when you find what your purpose and passion is, like it's a brighter side of you that people get and people experience. So, of course, my kids and my husband, they've been able to experience this joyful, happy, fulfilled woman. Because for 15 years, I did what a lot of us do, which is I went to a job and I punched a time clock and I paid bills and I built somebody else's dream. But once that switch goes on and you figure out what your purpose is and you start walking in that, I believe and I find in my own experience that it really does. It shows a different side of you. And that's the side that I love being able to have my family and my husband, my kids experience.
Wow, I love that. There's so many pieces in there that one, I love that you brought up about how your family gets to see you come alive and like the joy-filled version of you. Because I talk to so many women, you said that you're a particular age, but people in that have had kids that have already done the corporate job, that are married, that are now in this space of like, oh, well, who am I now? And sometimes I've found anyway that many people lose themselves in work or in their
Yeah.
children or their husbands. Like, who am I really? So for you, how did you even know that what you're doing now with speaking and everything else that you're going to share with us, that is your calling, like where you're supposed to be?
It was a journey.
Mm,
As I mentioned, I was in corporate America for 15 years as a legal secretary.
mm-hmm,
And you know, it paid the bills, but I knew that wasn't it. I knew that wasn't oh my God, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. That sense, like I said, of internal fulfillment and passion that most of us want to experience. So it was like I was paying bills, but I had a void.
mm-hmm,
I was existing, not living. It was those feelings. And so I think the difference was, even though I felt it, I didn't stay stuck in it. I
mm-hmm,
decided to do something about it, which is, saying yes to exploring what other possibilities there were other than what I was currently going through and walking in.
yeah,
And so in 2009, I just decided, this is not the end all for me. I really want to show my kids. At the time, my kids they were babies. Now they're teenagers. But I wanted to show my kids what it means to live life. Like, what does that look like? Like, I already know what it looks like to exist. I know what it looks like to live paycheck to paycheck. I know what it looks like to run the corporate rat race. I know what it looks like to race against traffic and race against the clock. And you're miserable and you get home and now you give your family the worst parts of you because you're tired and you don't want to go to the job that you hate the next day. I know that already. I've done that for 15 years. What would it look like if I did something completely new, uncomfortable, and unfamiliar? What would it look like if I said yes to something that I've never done before that terrifies me? Let me explore that. And I actually made a decision to step into the world of entrepreneurship just as a way of being curious about what other possibilities there were. And that was in 2009. And for about a year and a half, I still kept my full-time job. I didn't just leap. Some people like just leap and go for it.
Yeah,
And,
totally.
when when you got a family and bills and
Yeah, exactly.
sometimes you got to think twice about that.
Yeah.
But I decided to take the leap while I was still doing the things that would still satisfy what was necessary financially in my household. And
Mm.
so I started a business. It was kind of like my side hustle. It was a t-shirt business called Moms Are the Best because I loved being a mom. I was so in love with motherhood,
Oh.
not so much once they become teenagers, but at the time they were babies. I was like, oh, I just was so in love. And the t-shirt business, took me out of my comfort zone because as a secretary, I was always behind the desk and
Mm.
helping people, but I was pretty much behind the scenes. I wasn't the person who was in the forefront. Now, as the business owner representing this brand, I was the person at the front. I was talking to people and sharing with them why did I start the business and what did this moms are the best thing mean and why did I decide on a t-shirt line and all the questions and why was I passionate about it. And I did that for about a year and a half while I was still working my full-time job. And then the unexpected happened. Now, when I say unexpected, I mean I didn't see it coming, but I believe when you say yes to risks and say yes to what's uncomfortable and unfamiliar, that things are automatically going to come your way
Mm.
as a result of your yes to the
Yeah,
risk.
absolutely.
But I didn't expect that I was going to get an invite from Morgan State University at the time to come and speak at a women's conference to talk about being a mom who started her own business. Because
Mm.
honestly, I didn't feel like I should be the person. Number one, I wasn't a speaker, but also I didn't feel like I should be the person telling anybody anything because I was still trying to figure it out. So
Yeah.
I'm like, why would you call and ask me? But they had heard about the t-shirt business and they were like, well, I think that's inspiring for other women and other moms to start their own side hustles, and have their name on something. So that was September 18th, 2010, when I went to do that speaking engagement. And let me tell you, Jessica, it was like the light bulb went on. I had never felt that way about anything. And I had tried different things, little side gigs and side hustles and selling this and signing up for this MLM thing and Tupperware and all the stuff. Like I'm really dating myself. But I had never felt this sense of joy and just excitement and passion inside of me when I was on that stage. And that's ironic because I was also terrified
Yeah.
simultaneously. So it's amazing how you can say yes to something that scares you, but then it becomes the very thing that fulfills you and nurtures your spirit. So as I was on that stage and I'm looking out at the women that I'm speaking to, and they're taking all these notes, and for a moment, I kind of had a surreal moment. I'm like, okay, wait, are they taking notes for what I'm saying? Like, what the heck? Okay, is she crying? I'm like, wait a minute, are they crying? Are there tears trickling down? And I'm just telling my story about who I am, where I grew up, what I want to become, and what I'm putting in to become that woman. And that was moving the room. And I knew on that day, September 18th, 2010, I wanted to do that for the rest of my life because of how I could make other people feel, especially women. And then in turn, how that made me feel, knowing
Wow.
that I was impacting people in that way.
Yeah. I love that so much. 'Cause I actually relate to the part where you felt so terrified up there, but you also felt the most alive. I know before I go speak, I normally basically black out. Like I have everything prepared and then I don't remember anything. And then I'm like nervous and I'm sweating. And then I get there on the stage and somehow it all just comes out and it's better than I planned. But I'm like, what just happened? Something took over me and I'm like so alive. But maybe speak about that a little bit because it's true. Where, maybe somebody's called to something or they're in their sweet spot. but you can be so terrified and it almost makes you think you're not made for it. But at the same
Yeah.
time, maybe you are. So do you have something to share about whatever
I mean,
somebody may be going through with that or your own experience?
yeah, I mean, I say this to my clients all the time. If it doesn't scare you, it can't grow you.
Mm,
When
so
you
good.
really think about that, the things that grow you are scary because you're being stretched in an uncomfortable way, things that you've never done before, in the pursuit of something you've never had before, never experienced before. That is always going to require discomfort.
Yeah,
But if you're doing something and you're not afraid, you're not terrified, you're not scared, it's just like, oh, I can do this. You know how people say, I can do this blindfolded, I can do this with my hands behind my back, right? Okay, then you've probably stopped growing
totally.
in
Yep.
that specific area. So you need to find some other area of growth. So
Mm,
for me, I'm always looking for what's the next scary thing I can do,
mm,
right? Which seems completely opposite to what we would seek out as humans. But there is a level of fulfillment in pursuing something that it's terrifying in the moment, but on the other side of it, it is so beautiful. And
mm,
it gives you this space of increased confidence to know that you were terrified, but you could press through and do it.
mhm.
A renewed sense of belief in yourself that, oh my God, I didn't know if I could, but look at this, I can, and I did, and it prompts you to go and seek the next thing. So
Mm,
again, it's about being on a journey of ongoing, continuous growth for as long as you have life and breath in your body.
I love that. And then what would you say? Because nowadays, I mean, either speaking or presenting yourself or being on social media or being on stages and it's not made for everybody. I do know that, but it
Mhm.
is super important these days, especially for somebody that does have either a business or they're in leadership roles or something. Like, how important do you think that that really is? And can you touch on that a little bit?
I mean, speaking is nothing more than communication, and we
Mm,
communicate every single day.
mhm,
And the way that we communicate decides and determines what outcomes we're going to get, what results we're
mm,
going to experience. So whether you are communicating with your spouse and you
mm,
have a certain outcome that you want, or you're
yeah.
communicating with your children, and I know that I can't communicate with all three of my children the same way. I
Mm,
have to be aware of their communication style. I have to be as good of a listener as I am someone who is sharing what I want or what I am requiring from my children. It's no different in my business. I have to master the art of communication.
mm,
Now, if you pull out of that, the public speaking side, as a business owner, public speaking is always going to be a part of your journey. It does not mean that you want to be a full-time motivational speaker or a full-time platform speaker. However, you do want to consistently serve people who need what it is that is your zone of genius and brilliance. And how do you serve more people with your brilliance? You talk to more people. And that means whether it's you talking to clients one on one, but you still have to be able to engage their communication style. You have to be able to listen. You have to be able to connect on a heart to heart level, not just a head to head level. There's so many elements in communication and public speaking that are applicable beyond just a big stage. And I think
mm,
that is one of the things that, a lot of business owners fail to realize, because even if I have a small group and I'm doing a boot camp and it's 10 people, I'm still public speaking if I'm sharing a message in front of them. Even if I host a retreat and I intend to welcome the people there to the retreat or have some level of engagement, it's still public speaking. So we have to really redefine our idea of what public speaking and stages are. Stages, this is a stage.
mhm.
Even though, it's virtual, it's still a stage. A boot camp is a stage. Wherever you are sharing your voice, if you're talking to a prospect one on one, it's still a stage. And the question is, how do you maximize the stage to be able to attract the people that need what it is that you have and how you can help them to solve their problems? And the best way to do that is to master communication.
I love that. So do you take people, I mean, I know on your website you have like a signature story template, a framework. Do you teach people a specific framework that's customized to them to master this art of communication, depending on who they are, what message they're trying to bring, what it is that they're trying to, I guess, receive, if that's more clients or more, who knows what, whatever their thing is? Yeah, speak on that. Is there something specific that
Yeah, I mean, I find, and this is again, this year will be 15 years that I've been doing this work, that the foundation is pretty much across the board.
mm,
So I can teach anyone the foundational principles and strategies of becoming a more effective communicator
mm,
and being able to get in front of groups of people and articulating your message in a way, again, that is magnetic, it's compelling, it's captivating, but also positions you to convert more. So I can do that in terms of teaching the foundational for anyone. What happens is what people decide to do next. So some people come into my programs as a part of Global Speakers University and they get the foundation. And the foundation is about what is my message? So really having clarity on that. Who do I want to primarily share this message with? How do I structure my speech? If I'm giving a keynote that's 60 minutes versus a keynote that's 30 minutes, what's the difference in what I share versus what I don't share? How much time should I allocate to each part of my speech? What story should I tell? Because I have 155 stories because I'm a certain age, so I have all these lived experiences. Which one is the one that I should be sharing as my signature story? How many talking points should I have? What should each talking point focus on? Do I need stories for each talking point? Those are foundational principles and strategies that we teach in the community of GSU. Some people, they take that and they're like, okay, they run with it. Other people say, okay, now I want a more refined training element where you focus on helping me to pull out the best in my journey, my lived experiences. I got all the great content, but now I want you to help me refine my story. Here are the 4 or 5 stories I'm thinking about. Which one feels like it resonates more? And then we go through an individual coaching program where I help that person prepare for. Some people are preparing for an event that they've actually already been hired for. Some people are preparing because they're intending to submit requests for proposals for speaking engagements and they want to be ready. Some
mm,
people come because they do have that anxiety and nervousness about speaking in front of big audiences or big or small, and they want to be able to develop and increase their confidence. So I do a combination of the group coaching and foundational strategies with that customized individual one-on-one option for those who want to take it really to the next level.
I love that. When you're either doing your own, you're going somewhere and you're thinking of maybe which story to tell, or somebody else, you're working with them one on one and they're telling you the 5 different stories. What are you looking for to pull out the biggest juice out of them? Is it like a magnetic feeling you get from them while they're sharing? Is it like oh, that makes me want to trust you, so share that one? Or is it like, ooh, that one's relatable, or that one's for your target audience, so let's do that? Maybe all of them, but yeah.
Yeah, all those are great because those are some of the things that I take into consideration.
Mm,
It is the first thing I say is I always have people to identify their top 4 to 5 stories that have transformed their life in the biggest way since based on where they are, the season they're in. So if I can identify and narrow down my 155 stories to
mm,
5, like these 5 stories transformed who I am as a
mm,
person, right?
yeah.
There's certain experiences in life that just shift us and we're never the same again. So,
Hmm.
for instance, my sister, I was sharing this with you. She lost her baby boy 5 years ago, Jordan Alexander Cofield. He was 20 years old. Unfortunately, he died in a tragic motorcycle crash. Her life will never be the same from that experience. For some people, it's a health and wellness journey. For some people, it's a medical diagnosis. For some people, it's trauma that they've experienced. For some people, it's a divorce, right? There are all these things that we go through in life. Can you give me 5 stories, life stories that have transformed who you are as a being? That's
Mm,
number one. Then the second thing is now which of those stories would make the greatest impact on the target audience that you say you want to serve?
mm,
Because all those stories are not going to make an impact. They're not going to be relatable or relevant to what it is that you're going to be speaking about and who you're going to be speaking to. So
mm,
now, guess what? We can eliminate those as a signature story. Now, we're just talking about a signature story, and I'll explain that in a moment. Just your signature story. Your signature story is a story that you share every time you are sharing on a stage or a platform. It's the story that always, whether you're sharing it a 5 minute version of it or you're sharing a 2 minute version of it, you always share that story because that's how people come to know you and remember who you are. And they'll start saying, oh, that's the lady who, or oh, that's the man who XYZ. And there will be a dot, dot, dot that they'll fill in based on the story that you continue to tell.
Mm,
So we've narrowed it down to 5 stories. Now we pull out the story that is most relatable to the audience that you want to serve and the topic that you want to speak on. And then the third part is now which of those stories that are relevant, relatable, do you want to relive, retell, and repeat over and over and over and over and over again for the next 40 years? Because your signature
good
story
one.
is not going to change. Your signature story is, in effect, what has produced who you are today and why you do the work that you do in your business. So
Mm,
that's not going to shift or change. So you've got to be willing to not only retell, relive, and repeat it for 40 years, but tell it every time as if it's your first time telling it.
hmm.
What is that story? Because it's literally like you taking a shovel and you're saying, I'm going to dig up this story that happened 20 years ago. I'm going to dig up this
Yeah.
pain or this trauma or this valley that I was in
Yeah.
from XYZ years ago. But that means in order for the audience to get the greatest benefit from it, you have to create what we call narrative transport. That means you have to transport them back to a place they were not
Mm,
there with you as if they were there
they
with
were.
you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the only way to do that is if you take yourself back to what the emotions felt like, what the experience was like. And that means you got to be willing to go to into that emotional space within yourself. So that's why you've got to choose the story wisely. There's some
Mm,
stories I don't want to relive, retell, and repeat.
hmm.
And
That's
there's
fascinating.
some where I'm like, okay, I'm willing to relive, retell, and repeat that story
Mm.
because of the impact that it's going to make. But it's not going to cause additional trauma to me to go back and dig
Ah,
that.
that's a good one. This is to all you ladies who have that whisper, that knowing that you're made for more. You're made for more than where you have been going. You're not the same version of yourself that you were 5 years ago. You're the new version of yourself now. So you either have a business, you have a nonprofit, you're a leader in the world, and you know that you're pivoting. You know that you want to create more expansive goals. You desire to be a better version of yourself, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And you also want to create the business that's going to impact more lives, that is more aligned with you, whether that's creating more aligned offers, whether that is speaking, whether that's podcasting, whether that's creating a community, whether that's launching something, a book, whether that's something else that you just know that you've been maybe playing small or holding back in some sort of way, and it's ready. You're ready now. This Dreams to Reality Mastermind, I'm so excited because we have 6 months where we're diving in deep with a community of women that get it, a community of women that are all ready to go to that next level, that are there to grow, that are ready to learn, that are taking their business and their impact to the next level and in helping more people. This is about helping those that you really care about. Maybe you have a story that you are using for a purpose. You're taking your pain into the next level of your purpose. And what you can do is you can contact me. You can go to my Instagram, which is Jess Dahl, JessDahl with an underscore, or you can go to my website, jessdahl.com. And if any of this resonated at all, let's talk about it. Let's see if this is for you. I want to make sure that it's an aligned fit. So go ahead. Don't wait around. Your next level is waiting for you. This is your next chapter that you're ready to start in for your life. It's time to start with that blank slate and let's do this. That's a really good one. I just had this. I feel like I need to ask you because I'm getting like sometimes I get like the butterflies or tingly or whatever, and I'm like, I'm supposed to ask you. So I have this one a few years back. Um, so when I was 21, I was raped. And a few years back, I basically said it on accident on a podcast to one of my guests because he was sharing his story and then it like brought it out. And I was like, holy shit, this is going online. Oh my gosh. And I'm freaking out because I had never shared it publicly. Maybe it with like a few people, with like, a couple small groups, whatnot. So it was something I stuffed down for 10 years, like stuff. Anyway, then I did have to finally go back and like relive all of it because I pushed it away and it was like, holy crap. And then I shared it. It was actually very healing and helped so many people and all this stuff. But even I did a talk even recently where I actually incorporated it and it wasn't it was people that were like world changers. They, were activists for children, for human rights, for trafficking, all this stuff. And so I found it, it flowed in with what I was sharing and then how to make a difference in the world. But I have this question sometimes of like, okay, because it was amazing and I felt great sharing everything in the journey that I took people through to like, know that they can be the world changer in the world no matter what happens to you. And so I'm wondering still to this day, is this something, because it's not like I want to, I have a nonprofit, we help with human trafficking, but I'm not trying to like help traumatized women out of, sexual abuse or whatnot. That's not what I'm trying to like do with
Right.
with the message. So sometimes I wonder, is that going to land for people that I share it with? They can relate it in whatever way, like their own pain point, their own trauma, whatever, but no matter what, go and be a change in the world and make a difference. So anyway, I just thought, because I was getting sweaty, that I feel like I needed to ask you.
It sounds like, from what I can hear you saying, that that might not be your signature story that you tell every time you're on a platform, but it might be what we call a supporting story.
Hmm.
And a supporting story is a story that supports a takeaway or a talking point that you're making in the midst of a presentation. It
Hmm.
doesn't mean that you tell that story every time because maybe it's not appropriate or applicable for a specific setting. So maybe
Hmm.
that's not the story that you tell every time because it's not connected to your message, your mission, or your movement,
Hmm.
right? But it might make a certain point. So the question becomes, what is the point that you're making by telling that story?
Hmm.
And then do you circle back around after you share the story to let people know? So, even if you've never experienced anything as traumatic as rape, and I hope to God that you never have to,
Hmm.
what I do know is that every single one of us, we experience things that create trauma in our lives. And if we don't, dot, 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 and whatever the point is that you're making. And that way you pick people up who know they haven't experienced that, but you're solidifying the point that you're making, which is, and whatever your point might be. And for me, I just took the liberty of saying the point is all of us go through trauma, but it's how you react, not react, but respond to the trauma and move forward versus staying stuck in the trauma. So that's how I would pick people up, so that they can understand the relevance of you sharing that story. Does that make sense?
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it does. Yeah, I think it's that question. It just made me think because it was like, is this supposed to be? Because it's like amazing when I share it, but I'm like, is this my signature talk? Like I never thought in my life this would be it. And maybe you're right. Maybe it is
It
kind
might
of
not
that.
be. I mean, even
Yeah.
for me,
Maybe it's
I
like the
lost
subsection.
it absolutely. I lost my dad in 2009. He was 59 years young. He passed of a massive heart attack in his sleep unexpectedly on Thanksgiving morning. That was
Oh
the
my
first phone call I
gosh.
got on
Sorry.
Thanksgiving morning 2009. And I don't always share that story because it's not necessarily always connected to what
Mm,
my primary speeches are about, which is typically economic empowerment for women through entrepreneurship. So I
yeah.
don't always share that story, but there are some settings that I go into. And the point that I might be driving home is maximize every moment that you have of life and breath in your body because tomorrow is not promised.
Totally.
So if you want to start the business, start it, launch it. If you want to write the book, write it because
Mm,
tomorrow's not promised. And then I might decide to pull that story in
mm,
as a an example to demonstrate that life is not promised, life is short. And here's the example.
mm,
Lost my dad, unexpected, only 59 years young, otherwise healthy, XYZ.
mm,
And he thought he had more time. So he, like most of us, made a to-do list. And what
yeah.
I do is then I circle that back around. I say, so, and I want you not only to make to-do lists for the things you want to accomplish, but I want you to make a today list. What's
Mm,
the thing I'm going to do today
mhm,
in case my tomorrow doesn't show up?
mm,
Right. So
yeah.
it makes sense for me to pull that story in, but sometimes it doesn't. So I'll give a quick example. If I'm speaking to young people, if I'm speaking to college kids, I don't share that as the story, even if I'm still trying to make that point to
Mhm,
maximize every moment that you have life and breath in your body. I don't share the story of my father. Do you know why? Because to them, to a 20-year-old, my father was old.
right.
He,
Yeah. He's
oh, he
like,
was
well,
fifty.
yeah, wasn't he supposed to die
He's
soon
about to
anyway?
die anyway, right?
Yeah. Oh
Like,
my
and
gosh.
kids have this feeling, and we all were there when we were 18, 19,
Yeah.
20, where we felt invincible. They're not thinking
Right.
about death. So
Right.
now I have to search for a different supporting story that will drive home that same talking point, but to this audience of young people.
Mm,
That story about my dad will go over great with people my age, people who maybe are 35 and older.
mhm.
Life becomes more that idea of immortality like kind of leaves our minds once we are in that age bracket. But for young people, they're like, oh, I'm invincible. I'm going to live forever. And so it doesn't make the same connection. So I would choose a different supporting story.
Ah, that's so good. So is there like a way of a storytelling framework, I guess, that you could share? I know you shared a bunch of stuff, but like if like
Yep.
say, yeah, just anything that comes to your mind, like, and again, it could be for entrepreneurs because it's like now they have these, create a reel in 30 seconds. Like, how do you tell a story in 30 seconds? Like, and then there's the long form, for an hour. So like is there even like something that's like, okay, make sure you have this in the beginning, this in the middle, this in the end? I don't know. And as an example,
Yes. So for me, what I always encourage people to do is uh, treat it as if it's a story that you're reading. And when you're reading a story or you're hearing somebody else's story, what do you want? You want a beginning, a middle, and an end. So
mm,
make sure that your story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. So I always say, number one, the beginning should be you taking us to a moment in time.
mm,
So I will never forget on November 26, 2009, it was Thanksgiving morning. I was so excited about the opportunity to be able to spend time with family, just being grateful and thankful for friends, family, love. Da, da, da. I'm taking you to a moment in time.
mm,
So I chose a specific date and then I started being descriptive about what was happening on that day. So that's always going to be my opening for my story is a moment in time and I'm bringing you into the scene by being as descriptive as possible. Maybe I looked out of my blinds and I could see that it was going to be a bright and sunny day. The sun was already, or I looked out of my blinds and I saw that the clouds were coming heavily in and I could see that it was starting to be misty. I
mm,
knew that day it was going to be a rainy, yucky day. So
mhm,
what I did, right? So I'm bringing you into the scene. So number one, you take me to a moment. Number two, you pull me into the scene by being descriptive. Number three, you start introducing characters. Who are the
mm,
characters in the story? So for that morning, the morning that I got the call of losing my dad, the characters include my kids, my husband, and my sister. So I talk about I was in my living room, I had the music blasting, I felt so good that day, and I was getting my three kids ready for the day, right? So I'm introducing now these characters. And as I was getting my kids ready for the day, my cell phone rang. I
mm,
tried to get to the cell phone, but I missed it. So I went back to dancing and engaging with my kids. And then the cell phone rang again. So I had a little bit more sense of urgency to getting to the phone. I go over to the phone, I look at the call ID, and the call ID says Cherie. Well, y'all, Cherie is my biological twin sister. Yes, there are two of me. So I was already smiling from ear to ear before I even answered the phone. And finally, I answered and said, hey, girl, what's going on? You see what I'm doing? So
yeah.
now I'm bringing in characters. I didn't just tell you my sister, I said her name. And then I bring my husband in a little bit later once I explain kind of what happened. So now you are starting to, it feels like it's real to you that you were there because you can start to see the scene in your mind.
Mm,
And as I'm going through that, now I unveil what happened, the pain or the obstacle or the challenge or the setback that you experienced. For me, it was a pain, the pain of my sister calling to share with me that my father had passed away unexpectedly just about an hour or so prior to that phone call. So now you're pulling me in, you're giving me the pain, and then I walk you through some of the emotions of what the pain felt like and what occurred, what transpired from the time that she told me that to the time that I actually drove to his house and I actually was there at the moment that he was closed up in a body bag. And I described what that felt like as I looked over and I could see my grandmother, I could see tears streaming down her face as now she was going to have to bury the oldest of her eight children. I looked over at my aunts and my uncle, right? And I'm describing what the scene was like. So that happens throughout the full story. So I pulled you into the pain. I'm giving you descriptors about what happened, how I felt, what did I do next. I left my kids with my husband and I jumped in my car and I went to my dad's house because he lived close enough to me where I was able to get there in about 15 minutes. And I got there the moment that the medical examiner was closing my father's body in a closing it in a body bag, right? So I'm giving you that. And then I move through and I start to talk about how the pain or the problem for you, it might be a problem or a challenge or obstacle. How did I overcome it or how do I press through it? What was the next thing that happened? And I talk about in that story, I talk about the medical examiner taking my father's body out and on the little gurney. And as she was going out, she handed me this little plastic bag. And I don't tell it. I'm telling you for this purpose of kind of like a training session, but I describe it. She started to take my father's body out. And as she did, she handed me this little bag, like a grocery bag. I looked inside the bag and I pulled out all of my father's personal belongings that was on his body, his watch from off of his arm, the rings that he had on his finger, his social security card, his wallet that he had in his back pocket, and even a couple pocket knives. Because, yeah, y'all, my father was a little cray cray. Now, what I'm doing in that is still describing, but now I'm pulling you, starting to pull you out of the pain and into what I want you to take away from the story. Because the rule of thumb is we don't take any audience down low and leave them there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So now I have to have a turning point where I start to bring you out of the pain because I want to move to my next bullet point, but I don't want to leave you stuck crying about my father being gone.
Totally.
So
Mm-hmm.
I got to pull you out. So that's why I throw in the little humor part about his
Mm-hmm.
pocket knives because my father was a little cray cray, y'all. And that always cracks a little smile on people's faces so that they're coming out of, oh my God, I can't believe she lost her dad on Thanksgiving Day. I can't believe he was only 59. I can't believe she watched him close in a body bag. That's a lot to take in. And I'm telling my story within a 3 to 5 minute window. So
Mm-hmm.
now I start to bring them out of that because my father was cray cray. And
Mm-hmm.
also, what happens after I say that, I do a little laugh, right? Still kind of serious tone, but a little bit of a smile, a little bit of a laugh. He was cray cray, and I get a little bit of that from him. But here's what I learned: when she walked out of that door, what I realized was that there is no coming back from that.
Mm-hmm.
Anything my father wanted to do, he had to have already done it. All the would haves, should haves, could haves didn't matter anymore. The only thing that mattered, and you see what's happening even in my voice, my volume, I'm increasing because typically when you increase your volume, it indicates excitement, energy, enthusiasm, versus when my volume is lower, it's sadness,
Mm-hmm.
it's seriousness. It's something that I want you to really hear and feel. I don't want to stay in that volume and that tone and that pace. My pace is slower when I'm talking about something serious. But what I learned from that, as tragic as it was to lose my dad on Thanksgiving Day, as tragic as it was to know that his life was snuffed out, 59 years young, it was also a lesson. It was a lesson that said, Cheryl, if you're gonna live, live now. Live today, live in this moment. Stop putting things off. Stop making a to do list and make a today list because your tomorrow is not promised. If you want to create legacy, girl, go out and create it now. For some of you in the room, there's something that you've been thinking about doing. You've been wanting to write the book. Write the book now. You've been wanting to launch the business. Launch the business now. You've been wanting to release the weight. You've been wanting to da da da. And now my crescendo is bringing us out of the pain of it into the talking point, and then I circle back around. So again, number two, or step number two, is don't wait, create. That
Mm-hmm.
might be my main talking point.
Good.
And now I'm going, and now I have permission to go into the next talking point with the next story because I didn't take them into a space of solace and a space of pain and leave them
Mm-hmm. That's good. A round of applause. Let's go.
there.
That was awesome. I love it. I love it. Okay, great. So, we're gonna have to have you back because I have a million more questions. It's so
I
good.
love that.
Yes. But if you could, there's people here listening and they're like, I really want to be a speaker. What would be their first maybe three steps of, and maybe they have had no experience at all. They don't have, you know, they don't know anybody. They're just kind of, they know that they have a story, they have a voice, they have something that they want to share with the world. What would you tell them? What would be their three steps to do today on their today
Oh, that's
list?
good. That's good. So I would say, number one, I would give them that assignment to identify the five most transformational experiences of their life that could
Mm-hmm.
potentially serve as their primary story, or what we call their signature story. I
Mm-hmm.
would always start there, because, everything else, we can point the story, we can craft the story to match the message.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So what's the story? And again, remember the story that you want to tell over and over and over again,
Yeah.
as if it's the first time you sharing it for 40 years. And also the story that no matter who's in the room, you can share the story and you can still leave anybody who's a character in the story with their dignity, so that you're not ashamed or embarrassed to tell the story, even if they're in the room.
That's good.
That's so
Oh,
important,
that's
right?
good. Yeah.
So if your mom is a part of the story and the trauma that you experience, or for me, some of my trauma came from my father
Yeah.
early on in my life. So it's like, how do I still leave him with his dignity and respect, but
Totally.
still this is my lived experience?
Yeah.
So, and if he was in the room, could I still share the story? So that's key. So that's number one, is sit in a space, a quiet space, and write down what are the five most transformational stories. And then of those, is kind of your next step. Number two, okay, which one have I decided is the one that I do want to relive, retell, repeat, and I can share it no matter who's in the room, and it connects in terms of relevancy to what the message is that I want to share in the world with a specific audience, and who is that audience. So it's like, number one is the story, number two is clarity about who the story really is intended for, and and it's not that you can't tell the story to more than one group of people, but if you don't have an identified ideal client or target market, you really have no market at all. So
Mm.
identifying who do I most want to share this with, because I want to help create transformation in this group of people's lives. So for me, I know I want to empower and edify women. Now, it's not to say that men don't come through my programs, that I don't work with men, I don't work with you. I do. But that is not 85%. I was looking at my business as kind of 85-15. 85% of my time I want to spend doing the thing that just nurtures my soul. It makes me feel alive, and that is working with women. Then
Mm.
there's a 15% where I do some corporate stuff and they pay really well, and I work with some men, and I might do some stuff for youth and right other demographics. But 85% is always going to be made up of what nurtures my soul and makes me feel good and feel like I'm creating legacy. So that
Mm.
would be, I would say, your number two. And then the third step would be to start incorporating that story, just pieces of it, mentioning it, even without having, coaching where you're crafting it fully, incorporating little pieces of that as a part of when you're having conversations with people. When
Mm.
people ask you what you do or why you do it, oh, so what made you become a motivational speaker? Or what made you start your podcast? Or what made you find a way to tie in little elements of your story into that?
Mm.
So for me, really, my signature story is about working a job in corporate America, running the rat race for 15 years, and I wanted freedom. I wanted time freedom, financial freedom, and creative freedom as a mom. I wanted to be fully active, engaged, and present for my kids. And my
Yeah.
full-time job, they that didn't there was no space for freedom in that
Yeah.
space. So
Mm.
I wanted freedom. That everything that I talk about is connected to that freedom that I desired,
Mm.
and taking risks to be able to create it because I didn't have it in my lap. So
Mm.
I want to make sure that I'm sharing that. If someone says, "Well, what made you get into motivational speaking?" or "How did you?" I'm like, that's interesting. The journey was all about me wanting freedom. I was at the
Mm.
time working a full-time job. I wanted time freedom. I wanted financial freedom and creative freedom as well. But the time freedom was important to me because at the time I was a mom who was dropping off three kids at daycare, going to a job that I wasn't in love with, and I was miserable. I felt like I was existing in life, not living life. But I knew, just based on stories I had read of other people's success, that if I placed all bets on me, if I gave myself a chance to do something that was uncomfortable and unfamiliar, there was a possibility, just a possibility, that maybe I could change my life, like shift the trajectory of who I was and who I was becoming. And that started with me launching my own business in 2009. And that business divinely detoured me into my first speaking engagement. And when I did that first speaking engagement, there was something that I felt inside that I knew I wanted to feel for the rest of my life, because I knew I was impacting the lives of others. That was my start as a motivational speaker on September 18th, 2010. And as they say, the rest is history. I
Mm.
just gave that to you in what, 2 minutes?
Totally. That's
That's
so good.
right.
So
And
good.
it like you talked about earlier, it builds more trust
Yeah.
when people hear your story, even if it's just in a minute, 60 seconds or 90 seconds, and they
Yeah.
hear more about your story than your title.
Mm.
Anybody can give themselves a title. I'm this and I'm this and I'm this. But if you pull in your story, that's a different level of trust for me to even open up and share that with you, a part of who I am. It shares, gives you, it shares your character and who you are and why you stand for what you stand for. And at the end of the day, most of us spend our dollars with people that we believe are fully convicted about what they do.
Yeah.
So when you hear that story, you can feel my passion. You can see the
Mhm.
energy in my face because I can't control it because I am really passionate about what I do. And the story is a connecting part of that. So
Mhm.
that will convert more clients than me coming in and saying, oh, by the way, oh, yeah, well, I'm a TEDx speaker and I'm an international. I've done this, done that. Like, okay. And
You're
that
like,
doesn't
so has almost the rest of the world. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, people don't lead with title,
Yeah.
lead with your story. And that
Mhm.
story typically will bring out that special energy inside of you that you want other people to experience.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much. So let everybody know too, because you have that speaker summit coming up in Barcelona soon. You have your Global Speakers University. How can people find you? Share a little bit more.
Absolutely. So, yes, I do run an organization called Global Speakers University. It's a training and development platform to help leaders and content creators, speakers, authors to really master the art of communication, public speaking, executive presence, because it's a part of our daily lives. So, it doesn't matter if you're trying to advance in your career or if you are a speaker or emerging speaker who wants to be on more stages, or even if you're just a business owner who says, I want to bring more people into my sales funnel, the way that you communicate who you are, what you do, how you solve people's problems is such a huge part of the conversion process. So that's not going away. And even in the world of AI,
Mm,
guess what? AI cannot replace you because you might be able to read all the words off the screen, but it's how you deliver those words. It's the energy that you connect to the words that you are speaking. So I take that very seriously as a part of my life's work, being able to help people become more masterful communicators and public speakers. You can go to globalspeakersuniversity.com and learn a little bit more. We also even have a free community on Facebook. If you just type in the search bar, Global Speakers University, come over there, get some of the tips that we share, the strategies for becoming more masterful at speaking, connect with some of the people who are there, and they're all across the world. And then every year, as a part of GSU community, I take about 20 speakers into a different country because I want them to know what it's like to become international with their message, to take it global. So last year we were in Athens, Greece. The year before we were in Paris, France. Another year we went to South Africa. Every year it's somewhere different. Well, this year we are going to Barcelona, Spain. I am so excited. We'll be doing the GSU, it's called the GSU International Speaker Summit on Tuesday, September 2nd. It's an all day, full day, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. event. It's free. If you're in Barcelona, you want to come hang out with us, we would love for you to join us. I think you can go to gsubarcelona.com is the link that we've opened up. And I'm excited to bring these 20 speakers from the United States into Barcelona, but also we're connecting with speakers who are in Barcelona to bring their expertise and their delivery style to us so that we can experience that entire, the culture and the way that they also share their message. So it's exciting. I love the work that I do, and I love being able to not only do what I love, but then open the door to help more speakers to also step fully into their passion and their purpose through the power of speaking.
so good. One last thing, if you could tell anybody that is desiring to go after their wildest dreams, maybe they want to start a business, maybe maybe they are, but they want to take it to the next level, what would you tell them?
Wow, there's so many things that are running through my mind. I'll share a quote that just lives inside of me from one of my coaches and friends, Les Brown. He says, "You don't have to be great to get started, but you have to get started to be great."
So good.
And getting started is, that's the tip of the iceberg because really when you think about it, it's a journey. So you're starting again and again. Every time you create something new, you're starting again. Every time you explore something uncomfortable, you're starting again. Every time that you're stretching yourself and expanding into new territory, you're starting again. So I take that and that lives inside of me every time I want to be my most creative self and the best version of myself. It means I'm always in a creative zone.
Mm,
So I'm always starting. So I always let that live in me that Cheryl, you don't have to be great at this thing to get started, but you do have to get started to be great. And I can apply that to writing a book or launching a new project or doing an international conference or whatever is new for you, starting your own podcast, whatever that new thing is, or you're reinventing yourself in your business, whatever it is, you're always going to have new things that you're pursuing, which requires a new start. And just remember, you don't have to be great to get started.
So good. Thank you so much for being here. This was
So,
amazing. Can't
thank you
wait
for
for the
having
next
me.
time. Yes, of course. Thank you. Thank you. Wasn't she amazing? Are you kidding me? That was like a full-on masterclass. Okay. I really hope that you guys really took a lot out of it. I know that I did. I mean, hey, I asked her a very specific question to my own life and story, which you heard. But please go follow her along. Please stay in touch with her. She's absolutely amazing. And I'm so grateful that she got to be here today. I don't take any of the people that I bring on lightly because they're all amazing gifts. And to you ladies that maybe resonate with that, maybe you have something in your heart that you already have a business, you are in a place that you want to reinvent yourself, you're in a place that you want to expand where you are, you desire to maybe start a podcast or write a book or start group programs or maybe start speaking or whatever that may be. I'm so excited because I have the perfect space for you, the Dreams to Reality Mastermind. It is a 6-month deep dive mentorship where you get to really dive deeper into being the most aligned version of yourself and also creating the next version, the next chapter of your purpose-driven, heart-led business that you have. And being with like-minded women that believe in you, that see the best in you, that want to see you win and go to that next level in order to impact more people's lives. Because the truth is, you have a gift. Do not wait. There is no waiting around, and it is time to start now. So send me a DM, Jess Dahl _, or you can actually email me, jess@jessdahl.com. You can also go to my website, jessdahl.com. It's all around the same thing, but I want to talk with you. We start soon, and I want you to get in the room. So if you resonate in any kind of way, even if you're not sure, just get curious. Let's have a conversation. Let's see if it's in alignment. Okay. And please share this episode with a friend. We are able to share more of these incredible stories when you share, when you also go and you follow our podcast, when you go and you leave a review and subscribe. That is where we are able to share more of these incredible stories. So thank you so much to all of you guys who listen constantly, who share it constantly. I hope that I will see you at the next one. Actually, I will see you at the next one. Okay. See you soon.